Hello, boys and girls, moms and dads. We are heading up to Mount Nittany today. This is on the road up there, so we're gonna be up for a big adventure on Wednesday's walk with Carolyn. All right, boys and girls, moms and dads, and grown-ups, we are joined by Eric Loop. He is the president of the Mount Nittany Conservancy, and you're going to join me on this hike today. Thank you so much for joining us. Eric, why don't we start with a walk up to your board here and to tell us a little bit about how this all started and how this is happening for all the grown-ups and kids alike here.
Absolutely, Carolyn. Welcome to the mountain bit. This is about just as much information as you'll ever see when you're up on the mountain, although we do have some map locations spread throughout the mountain. And obviously it includes a sense of the trail system here on the mountain. If one were ambitious, you could travel 6 to 7 miles if you were to walk every piece of this trail system of ours.
Eric, when we say that, what kind of time frame is that for boys and girls? I mean, that's a long time walking, right?
That's a pretty full day. You want to make sure you have a lot of water, maybe something to eat, and take your time because we're down low and the mountain's up there.
So we're here at the trail map. This is the kind of the start of mainly all the starts for the tour, right? For the hikes.
This is generally the only location from which guests and visitors can access the trail, which has its positives, but it also has its constraints because a lot of people like to visit. And when you do, make sure you bring your own map. That way you'll know where you're at and where you want to go.
And those maps are free and available right here.
Right here.
Right here.
Yep.
All right. Let's get started.
You betcha. So here's the inside of one of our maps. And as noted, we are right at the base of the mountain. And our job is to walk this half mile from way down here to way up here.
That looks flat on the map, but it isn't flat.
Exactly right. I'm kind of a map fan. I'm sorry, but if you could see these little brown lines.
Zoom in there. Okay.
Those are referred to as contour lines. Every time you cross over one of those lines, and we'll be crossing a lot of them, that is a change in elevation of 25 feet. So we're going to move about 600 vertical feet in the course of that half mile to get up to the top of the mountain.
And Eric, while we're standing here, let's go over the rules of hiking and what you need to bring along and show us what you're carrying with you and what you have on today.
Sure.
So boys and girls are all in the right preparation for today.
And it's important to have the right kind of footwear. So open-toed sandals would be a real tough walk here. And maybe some ankle support if, like me, you've got weak ankles. I carry a pair of hiking boots that are over the ankle. They're really not necessary. Generally long clothing, although our trail system is wide open. You know, if you get off into the trail or off the trails, you know, you don't want to be covered with ticks or stinging nettles or any of those things. So the right kind of clothing is important. I use my walks on the mountain for exercise, so I carry a little backpack, but it includes some water. And I have a first aid kit inside here. I carry my phone. We always have cell phone service here. And I've got a hammock in there in case I decide to take a nap.
Wow, that's really a long hike. That's interesting. Now, I've told the boys and girls, too, that sometimes you might want to bring a little snack along, depending on how long you're out.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
That's great. And how about bug spray? I already coated myself with bug spray, I guess, because I've got, you'll see me in a little bit, but I don't have the long pants that Eric wears today. I've got long shirts, long sleeve shirt, and sometimes that might be hot, but it really helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely does. Yes,
and how about sunscreen, too? Are we going to get to where we're going to be out in the sun?
You can. Much of the mountain, though, yes, happily, is forested, so we don't get a lot of direct sunlight along the trail system. But again, sunscreen and bug spray, They are very, very important. And sadly, so is, if you stay on our trail system, you don't have to worry about this, but you do want to have, protect your clothing from ticks if you're going to be any place in the woods in Pennsylvania and out in the brush, because they are notorious.
And one last thing then about the ticks, when you come down from your hikes, wherever they are, moms and dads and grown-ups should check everybody, right?
Yep, absolutely. They like to get behind your knees or maybe under your arms, someplace where it's warm. And so yes, you want to have mom or dad give you a tick check.
All right, boys and girls, we are getting ready to go up the hike with our friend Eric here. And you can see I have my mask on. The governor of Pennsylvania has asked us to wear masks when we're out. And so I'm going to start wearing my mask. But I think because we're just going to be on the trail together and that we're going to be socially distant, which means we're kind of a little far apart from each other, I have this special stick when I videotape these Wednesday walks. So we'll be able to be careful. If we see a lot of people on the trail, I will be putting my mask on. So that's one important thing right now, because we want to be safe out there this summer as we take our hikes. So we're going to start on our hike here up Mount Nittany. Come with us. All right, so here we go. And it is rocky, but like Eric, you said, it's okay to wear just good tennis shoes, right?
Absolutely.
For most kiddos.
And Carolyn, do you remember when we looked at our map down at the base of the mountain?
Yes.
Well, even as we just get started and throughout the mountain, we have our signposts here that always let you know where you're at.
And we're going to follow the white trail, it looks like.
We're going to take the white trail up the mountain.
Give us an idea, because I think I remember seeing a blue trail. There's got to be a purpose to blue and white, I would imagine.
You know, you would think here near Penn State, but in fact it's just it's a signing convention really throughout the trail systems, both here in Pennsylvania and really across the country.
There you go. I learned something new. I just always assumed that it's because of Penn State that we had a blue trail and a white trail. That's great.
Absolutely.
Hey, and I want to point out, look at this. Boys and girls, I don't know if you can read this. Robert Frost. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Oh boy, we're going to see poetry in motion here in nature, aren't we? We're not that far along on the hike, and we're already finding some interesting things coming up, Eric. Let's walk and talk here. Where are we heading to?
Well, at one of our first features here is a neat story about collaboration with some important entities here in the community that help us of the Mount Nittany Conservancy keep things working, and that's this pedestrian bridge.
Beautiful. It looks like it took a lot of time and some materials and people to make this happen.
Well, you know, Mount Nittany has a close affiliation with Penn State, and not only geographically. We'll talk a bit about the history of the Conservancy, but this particular project was designed by a student landscape architecture group who then helped assemble it. So this Penn State Mount Nittany Conservancy connection is very real. And then a little further beyond it, you'll see some work from a professional contracting organization, GOH Inc., who has helped us with some erosion control features that we have to deal with here.
Eric, we're here at, like you say, a partnership, but we didn't really fully explain the Conservancy yet. Why don't you tell us, as we're standing here, a little bit about why this happened and how this Conservancy, and it's a big word, how that all happened?
Sure, that's a great point, Carolyn. And most of it is in the name. The terrain feature, the piece of ground, of course, is Mount Nittany. And the heritage of that name is as circuitous and mysterious as any. And our website contains a number of great stories about the naming of the mountain. I'd mentioned the affinity and affiliation with Penn State. While the Conservancy is a unique organization and independent of the university, its roots are with a student organization called the Lion's Paw Alumni Association. Lion's Paw is a student group that a select number of seniors at the university are tapped to join. And way back in the 1940s, the mountain was privately held and went up for sale. And the risk was to be sold for potential development, or at minimum timbering.
So that means houses that could have gone right on top of this beautiful mountain.
Maybe so. And as a result of that, the Lion's Paw Alumni Association, a relatively small cohort of people, raised money to buy some 500 acres of privately held property at the top of Mount Nittany. And that was the beginning of the Mount Nittany Conservancy. Later on, while the Alumni Association, again, a volunteer organization, decided to establish in 1981 a unique entity, the Mount Nittany Conservancy, and basically turn over the charge of conserving the mountain to that independent organization as it exists now.
Eric, when we talk about conservancy and conserving, what does that mean for boys and girls? And we'll walk as you kind of answer that for us.
Well, conserve is the root word of conservancy. And so, as the name implies, what we endeavor to do is keep. If you think about a conserving as keeping something, we're endeavoring to keep the mountain intact and available to all our friends and visitors.
Why is that important?
For just the very simple reason that I'll bet every one of you can think about a place that used to be green, used to be wide open, and now maybe it's got houses on it, or a shopping mall, or a playground. That development, while it's very, very helpful and necessary, so too is this. So being able to come out into the woods and listen to the birds and get some exercise. And that's the mission of this conservancy and any other organization that might have that word in its name.
All right, so we're talking about how important it is to keep this natural and beautiful, but you also have to help keep it clean and user-friendly, right? I can see something like this that we're stepping on. Certainly
Right.
Nature didn't just do.
Exactly. So some local nature writer once termed this mountain as being loved to death. So many people come visit the trail system. This used to be a single path. And now, as you look behind me, you can see that in some places, this is 10 and 12 feet wide because people have just happily come out to enjoy Mount Nittany.
And that widened the patch naturally, I guess, with people's footprints going up there?
Exactly. But one of the challenges to that is water will take the path of least resistance. And so, as you pointed out, Carolyn, we have some logs across the mountain, across the trail, and we'll look at those in a bit more detail here in a moment. But they're designed to help keep water off of this path. Otherwise, it does turn into a little bit of a stream during heavy rains.
And this is open, let's point out, winter, spring, summer, and fall.
We never close. Yep, we never close.
And we're focusing on summer, Eric, for this special Wednesday's walk. So I think we're at a right time to come visit.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
We certainly don't want to forget that we're on the White Trail. And how do we know that we're on that, Eric?
What a well-timed question, Carolyn. The white blaze on that tree tells the tale. So you can always, with your map in hand and keeping an eye out for those occasional markers, always know that you're on the trail.
Okay, at this point, we're still hiking up, and Eric's going to talk a little bit about what you boys and girls are looking at, because, you know, again, it's hard to point out all the plants that are out there, but what kind of generally are we seeing?
So we've got here a a second generation forest, which means that at one point in time, most of the original old growth timber was taken off of some of these lower parts of the mountain. And so we've got oak trees of various kinds, maple, a little bit of birch up on the top of the mountain, and then our ground cover here. We've got deer on this mountain, although they're very hard to find.
Oh, really? Why is that, Eric?
They're shy.
Okay. But they're here.
shy.
They're fine. They're eating what's here.
Absolutely.
They just don't want to get around humans.
Yep.
We are coming up another one of those erosion logs, right? That's helping divert.
Absolutely.
This one's a pretty tall one. I guess you have to take your time coming up over this one.
And our volunteer organization couldn't have put that one in for us. But what our volunteers do, and we count on student groups from the university to help us with that.
Okay.
But part of our maintenance activities, you'll see how the little bit of rocks,
I see that.
as water flows down, they start to build up. And so just clearing so that the water, instead of going over the log, just follows it downhill.
Okay.
So it's a fairly simple task, but if we were to ignore it for a period of time, it would just become a waterfall. But what I wanted to pause here for, in addition to me recovering my breathing, is to describe the way our trail system works. To this point, we've largely kind of come in a straight line, generally up the face of the mountain. You pointed it out previously, and you can show it again. We've kind of been walking on a straight line.
Okay.
Now, at this juncture, we're introducing a turn in the trail with all of those water bars diverting the water off the sides, and then the trail heads off uphill, but not straight up, rather across the face of the mountain. And so we refer to that as switchback trails, because it switches back and forth. Even while you're still generally going up or down, it's not a straight line. And again, that helps with erosion control, because the water's gonna take the quickest path, which is straight downhill, and so it'll come off our trails a little easier.
It also helps humans because we need to rest, right, on a trail, and we need an easier way to climb up a pretty vertical mountain.
Absolutely, and on that note, I'm gonna get off the bench so you can take a rest.
Oh, thank you. All right, so as we head this vertical area, more rope, and that's needed to protect nature and us.
Exactly right. You can see the trail system is rocky. If you look over here, you can see the vague outlines of a trail that people would use to go right down the hill. That creates erosion. So our rope is doing two purposes. Helps us a little bit, and also helps the mountain.
Boys and girls, we've come to a part of our trail that gets a little rocky, and Eric is gonna go ahead of us and show us the safe way, I guess, to get through this part of the trail.
And Carolyn, you just always want to make sure of where your feet are.
That's the important thing. So as I
Solid
videotape this, I'm also gonna be
Yep.
little rocky video, boys and girls. Okay, keep going, Eric.
And it's just part of the geology of Pennsylvania. And so it's just something that we live with. This is probably the most challenging part of the trail. One, we've been working hard going uphill, and it's very rocky, so you have to be really careful.
We're on this trail, and I just wanted to point out that it does get a little, you gotta take deep breaths, and you have to breathe, and you also have to take stops, which Eric keeps pointing out to us. And so moms and dads and grown-ups that are watching this, if you end up going out on a trail, maybe it's not Mount Nittany, but something like this, just take breaks. And you can even bring out your water bottle at this point too. You don't have to wait for the top to be able to take a drink and take a break. All right, we've been going strong, I don't know, a couple of minutes, let's say 10.
Well, let's say 10. Would that it were that quick.
And
Carolyn, good news.
okay,
Look at the ground. It's not going up anymore. We've made it.
Woohoo! It looks flatter.
Indeed. And so one of the parts of our trail system, again, this is a convention on just about any trail that you'll ever be on. When you get to an intersection, there's two blazes. That tells you there's a change of direction coming. And as we walk up in here,
oh boy, we have to decide.
One of our signs.
Okay.
And so we did that hard, long walk across all of those contour lines.
Zooming in there.
And here we are at Station 2.
Okay.
We've made it to the top.
Woo! But we don't see the beauty shot yet, right? We have
Not
a little
yet.
way to go.
Just a moment away.
Maybe this is a good time to talk about why you got involved in this as we're trying to
Sure.
take a little breather here.
Well, you know, I grew up here in at the foot of Mount Nittany in Lamont and Hauserville, another nearby community. My parents both worked at Penn State, so State College in this area has been my home for much of my life. And I spent a lot of time on this mountain as a young person. My first trip up this mountain was certainly, you know, 45 years ago or earlier. And I've just always had an affinity for the mountain. And I had a friend who was an integral part of establishing the trail system that we enjoy. And his name was Dr. Tom Smythe. And Tom and I were friends, and I knew he was on the Conservancy board. And I said, Tom, I must get involved. And he made a point of that. So when I first joined the Conservancy, I was a part of our team. That the most fun part of this, in my mind, is getting up here, bringing students, bringing volunteers up, and helping to maintain the trails. And that's how I got started with the Conservancy 6 or 7 years ago.
That's beautiful. I'm going to pan around here now that we've got our breath and enjoy. You simply can't help but just take a deep breath and say, wow, right?
Taking a deep breath, for sure.
So boys and girls, when and if you're able to safely come up here someday with your grown-ups, you're going to be kind of witnessing some of what you're seeing here. And it is truly beautiful and calm. If you're upset when you start on the mountain, once you get up here, there's no way you can be angry about anything, I would say. I would venture. I'm excited, Eric. We're at a good point here. I'm looking over your shoulder and I think I see something special beyond.
We are about to have a really great view, but before we get there, Carolyn, I just wanted to point out we're about to head to an overlook, and as that name implies, it's a place that you can look over the area around you, and this one is named for Mike Lynch. Mike, as that plaque notes, was really an instrumental force in establishing the trail system. He was an Lion's Paw alumnus, and so the history of the Lion's Paw Alumni Association includes an annual report from Mike Lynch about the state of the mountain. And he's a part of the history and a powerful part of the legacy of the Conservancy here. And now we're going to take our new trail out to the aptly named Mike Lynch Overlook for the best view in center.
It's kind of the great reveal, I guess. We're kind of finally there at what is one of the many overlooks, right? We want to point that out. This is the one that's probably most popular, the Mike Lynch Overlook. And as I carefully make my way down, Eric, you tell us what we're looking at here.
So from this part of the mountain, you can look over a lot of Penn State's main campus. And if you come a little bit to your left, there's a big structure out there. I'm pretty sure that's where the Penn State football team hangs out, in Beaver Stadium.
Oh, which one day we hope safely will be filled again.
Yes. And the Bryce Jordan Center, where maybe if somebody has come for a concert or another sporting event. So that is a lot of Penn State's main campus.
Wow.
And then the mountains beyond, way out in the distance, the last range that you could see there is referred to as the Allegheny Front. And it's a part of the Appalachian Trail, or Appalachian mountain system, that extends all up and down the East Coast. And then between here and there, flat open ground.
All right, I'm a little bit closer. I'm still safely on the Overlook. I'm gonna zoom in so you can get a good look at what you can enjoy if you come up here. And I'm gonna be quiet. Listen. Pretty cool, huh? Again, we're at the top of Mount Nittany, and I'm gonna go pull the camera around and just show you kind of where you can come and take a look at things. And there's different levels, but they're all safe. There's our friend Eric. He's taking a break there, taking his drink, which is all important, but you want to be safe too, and you want to not leave anything behind. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, but I just wanted to take a look all the way around at what you can enjoy if you come up to Mount Nittany. Safely with mom, dad, or some big grown-up who can help you. It's open from dawn to dusk, but you don't want to wait until very, very late in the day and try to make your way down the mountain when it's just getting dark. So that's one thing we'll plan for safety when you plan a hike in your neck of the woods. All right, a couple more facts here. Eric's got his trail map out from the Mount Nittany Conservancy. Remember, you can get that at the bottom of this mountain. And tell us a little bit about how high we are today, Eric.
Well, Carolyn, we started at under 1,400 feet, and we are now right around 2,000 feet. So 600 feet we climbed up our mountain. I don't know about you, but I can tell I did it. So yes, our map shows the elevation here at just around 1,950 feet.
We are here at the Lynch Overlook of Mount Nittany, and I am actually sitting and resting, and I have my water because remember we talked about how important it is to bring some water, and water is probably the best thing for you guys to bring and drink when you need something. I did bring a little snack. Now I'm not hungry yet, but I know it's in my backpack in case I continue my hike and I get a little bit worn out. That can bring some extra energy. And remember last week we talked about writing things down. I brought a pen and my journal. I'm gonna write some of the things that I liked most about this hike. And you can do that too if you're on a hike in your backyard or if you happen to come and hike Mount Nittany sometime in the future. One more view of Mount Nittany from the top, the Lynch Overlook, and Eric's going to show us a little bit about where we can go from here if you decide to continue on. Right?
That's right, Carolyn. As much fun as it was to get here, now that you've made it, if you want to stay on the top for a little bit more, we have trails that generally cover the top of the mountain. And you'll recall, of course, that we walked up the White Trail. And there's our White Trail marker that you note beside it. We've got a blue marker right there. That means that on this brief section of trail, both a white trail and a blue are following the same path. And a little bit further along, you have the chance to take the one less traveled.
all of this is on that trail map, which is
All of
very
it is
important.
on the trail map, absolutely.
Take a look.
And that leads us around to some other overlooks.
And I'm just okay. So a friend of mine going up the path found this. What kind of bird do you think that came from? Anyone have a guess?
The guess on the blue will be blue jay.
I think we can hear it hollering at
Yes.
us here. just
He's
over
like, you've got my
shoulder."
feather. Finding some more mushrooms. This one kind of snuck underneath this log, which again forms as the barrier for water to come down, but it forms a natural step for you and I. Eric, we're towards the bottom. What are some of the final thoughts here as we enter the last part of our hike down Mount Nittany?
Well, my final thoughts are two. I think you owe it to yourself to visit. If you haven't, come back as often as you will and make a point of exploring all that the mountain has, and not just simply up to the top to that great Mike Lynch outlook. There's a lot more to see, and I hope you'll come and enjoy it with us.
And we hope the Mount Nittany Conservancy gets bigger and bigger and bigger and grows, because it'll help protect all this beautiful nature.
We'll stay on the job.